is unbearable. His thin arms try to shield himself, but they're no match for the relentless force. Daniel kicks harder, driving his heel into Jake's side. Jake's skin tears, his ribs splinter, piercing through the thin layer of flesh. Blood spills from his mouth as his lungs begin to fill, the internal damage too much to keep inside anymore. Daniel doesn't stop. His boots keep pounding over and over for what feels like forever. His bones are shattered, broken fragments poking out from beneath torn skin. His stomach splits open with another brutal kick, inside spilling out, the bile and blood mixing on the floor beneath him. Daniel walks around the corner of the basement. There are maggot farms. He grabs a handful and walks over to Jake. He lays on top of him and forces them into Jake's mouth. The smell of blood fills the basement. The wet sounds of flesh tearing and bones snapping echo off the walls. Daniel's face is blank, focused only on Jake, as he delivers the final blows with as much force as he can produce, followed by jumping on top of Jake's squashed remains. Jake's body is no longer recognizable as human, a pile of blood, bones, and ripped flesh barely held together. As Daniel finally stops, wiping the sweat from his face, Jake's broken, mangled body lies in a pool of gore, only clinging to life by the small amount of serum left in his system. His mind, the last shred of him that still works, drifts away into darkness. The serum inside him works slowly, but it won't let him die. Not yet. Daniel gets a good look at Jake and can't help but burst out laughing. Daniel slowly turns as he ascends the stairs. Only minutes later, Daniel returned with a small wooden dresser he placed near Jake, just out of reach. Daniel wiped his face with the back of his hand before he moved toward a simple trapdoor in the ceiling. It blended almost perfectly with the rest of the basement. He pulled it open and reached into the compartment. Pulling down glass aquariums, the tanks were packed with maggots, a sickening mass, some overflowing, a few leaking from the cracks of the tanks. He carried them one by one to the small wooden dresser. He didn't waste any time, lifting the lids of the filled tanks and spilling the wriggling maggots into the empty ones. The insects squirmed and piled up inside. "Man, Jake," Daniel said, a twisted smile creeping onto his face. "Those ones were overflowing, Jake. But now they can settle in nicely next to you. Just don't talk to them, Jake. They don't like you." With a sickening smile, he dumped his hands into the maggots. This is it," he said low, running his fingers through them. "Perfection, every one of them. So fat, so juicy, so bloated. Just the right amount of movement. Just what I need." He turned toward Jake's broken body, barely hanging on to life. Daniel crouched over Jake's wounds, sprinkling the maggots onto his torn skin. They crawled eagerly into the raw flesh. "This is how it's done," Daniel said. "Art takes time, patience, a little suffering, a little pain. That's what makes it perfect." Placing each maggot with precision, as though they were the finest ingredients. "Every little thing has its place," Daniel said, sounding almost proud. "They know where to go. This is my art." Another handful of maggots fell onto Jake, this time near his mouth. Daniel watched with delight as they crawled into Jake. Jake's eyes rolled back as he squealed. "Why?" Daniel responds. "Why, you ask? What could you possibly mean? Jake, my boy, it's feeding day. Eat them, my boy." He lifts one up to Jake's starved mouth and puts it in. "Chew it down, Jake. There's nothing to fear." Jake tries to, but pukes up all over himself with pure stomach acid. Ungrateful freak, Daniel says. He picks up all the maggots, returning them to the aquariums. Suddenly, Daniel walks upstairs without another word. He leaves on the basement light, something he has never done before. Jake's body trembled, weak and broken, the very dim light hurting his rarely used eyes, but his mind was elsewhere. It was consumed by the mass of maggots in the aquariums. They squirmed and squished around, but to him they were something else, something more than just bugs. They were company, they were friends, and he was beginning to feel something strange, something more personal. Daniel rarely spoke to Jake beyond punishments, but on those old rare occasions when he did his schooling, Jake could still recall one of those lessons, Daniel's voice echoing in the cold basement. Names are power, boy. Everything needs a name. It tells you what they are, where they fit. A name gives order to chaos. It's how you know who's in charge and who's nothing. Got it? Jake had nodded numbly at the time, not fully understanding, but the words stayed with him. Daniel had forced Jake to memorize the names of random people he would meet in the outside world, and even the occasional stray animal Daniel found amusing. See, Jake, names aren't just labels, they're weapons. They can shape what people are and what they think they are. You better learn that. Now, those words surfaced in Jake's fractured mind as he stared at a maggot at the top. The maggots weren't just maggots anymore. They were more. They needed names. Names would give them meaning. His eyes never left the tanks. A fat one was crawling around, pushing past the others, and Jake watched him with an intense focus. His chest felt tight. His lips parted in a pathetic, barely audible whisper. Larry, you're the boss, huh? You know what you're doing. You're smart, yeah. Yeah. You're smart, like me. You know how to lead. I bet you're gonna get me out of here. Jake's breath caught as his eyes landed on Millie. The little maggot was smaller than the others, quieter, trying to hide among the mass of squirming bodies. Millie, he whispered, like it was a prayer. You're so quiet, so sweet. I see you hiding, but I see you, Millie. You don't gotta hide from me. You're perfect, you know that? You're just perfect. Come on, Millie. His voice cracked as he leaned closer to the glass, almost pleading. Come to me. I'll take care of you. I'll make you feel good. We'll get out of here. Just you and me, okay? I'll make sure nothing hurts you. You'll be safe, I promise. Words slurring together, growing more incoherent. The maggots seemed to move, but Jake wasn't sure if it was them or just his mind playing tricks. I'll take care of you, Millie. Just let me. I'm the only one who sees you. Larry's great, but he doesn't get it like I do. He's not special like you. The silence stretched, but Jake's eyes didn't leave her. He was obsessed now. His hand twitched toward the glass, fingertips brushing the surface as if reaching for her, his breath shaky. But then, the tank shifted. The glass cracked. The sharp sound of it breaking echoed through the room, and before Jake could react, the maggots were spilling out. Jake's heart skipped, his eyes wide as he saw them spread across the floor, their tiny bodies crawling, exploring. His breath caught in his throat. This was it. This was his chance. They were free. They would lead him out. They would help him escape. He could almost see them, in his delirium, forming patterns, forming a path, a path to freedom, a way out. You guys, you're gonna take me with you, right? You'll lead me out of here, yeah? Yeah, you will, won't you? You'll lead me. Larry knows where to go, right? And Millie's gonna come too. You won't leave me alone. You won't leave me behind. His eyes darted around, his body aching, but all he could see now were the maggots. They were crawling away, moving faster, going somewhere he couldn't see, but somewhere he needed to be, somewhere he wanted to go with them. Millie, small and delicate, crawled slowly toward him. Jake's eyes locked onto her, his mouth dry. His fingers twitched, and he whispered to her, "Come here, Millie. You're not like the others. You're different. You're special. Just like me." His hands trembling as he reached out again, this time closer. The maggots crawled over his fingers, and he didn't care. He didn't care about anything but Millie. She was everything. "I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you're safe. You'll never have to be alone again. We'll get out of here together. Just you and me." The maggots kept moving, the others crawling away. But Millie stayed close. And for a moment, that thought, she stayed close, was the only thing that made sense to Jake. He stared at her, his thoughts spinning as the world around him fell away. It was just him and Millie, just her and him, no one else. "They're gone," Jake whispered, as if it were a secret. "But you and me, Millie, we're gonna get out of here, together." And in that moment, in his fractured mind, he believed it. His false hope is shattered. Daniel's footsteps return. They're heavier now, slower, as if he's dragging something. The screech of metal against wood makes Jake's stomach twist. Daniel appears, hauling a massive, rusted lockbox behind him. He drags it down the stairs. Daniel steps onto the basement floor. Larry, the leader, is squashed under his boot. "Larry, no!" Jake screeches weakly. Daniel walks closer, the metal scraping violently as he pulls it to the center of the room, squashing maggots with the box. Jake loses it at the sight of his friends being destroyed. Daniel takes a moment to catch his breath before standing over Jake again. "I didn't forget about your stair adventure. You thought you could just get away, didn't you? Did you enjoy it, huh?" Daniel crouches down, gripping Jake's hair tightly. "Your little moment of freedom? Crawling around like a worm, thinking you could... what? Escape? Look at you. Are you insane?" Daniel chuckles, shaking his head as he lets go. Jake's head thuds against the concrete like an already cracked watermelon. "Pathetic. You really don't get it, do you? You're nothing. You're nothing, period. We are so behind schedule." Jake watches helplessly as Daniel opens the lockbox. It's huge, almost big enough for a body. Jake remembers how tiny and mushy he is. His breath quickens, panic, but his broken body won't let him escape. It never does. "What is that you're holding?" Daniel says. Jake responds, "No, not Millie." Daniel picks up Millie and rubs the maggot in between his fingers and Jake's face. Jake tries to cry to display his anguish, but his body is too dry. Daniel grabs Jake's mangled arms and begins dragging him toward the box. His skin peels, bones cracking and twisting as Daniel carelessly yanks him across the floor. Jake's body tears further, limbs barely holding together as Daniel stuffs him into the box. Blood smears the metal, and Jake's shredded skin sticks to the cold steel as Daniel folds his broken body inside like a rag doll. Once Jake's inside, Daniel looks down at him. "This is what freedom gets you, Jake. And even if you could escape the sun, a bright monster in the sky will get you, the light. It's all worse than me. Even I'm scared of it. I'm struggling to keep it from you. Trust me. If you're ever out there, it will be much, much worse," he says, slamming the lid shut. It doesn't fully close as some of Jake's mangled flesh is in the way. Daniel slams it repeatedly until the lock snaps into place, sealing Jake inside. Now that Jake is confined even more, Daniel takes the time to fix the pipe he had broken before. He broke a shitter pipe, and it needed to be repaired. He worked on it for about 10 minutes and realized it was irreparable. Pissed, he went upstairs. Another thing for the shopping list. 30 minutes later, the serum's effects work well. Jake's body almost returns to its normal form, and his mind returns to him, just a bit. He can now move his head slightly. Inside the box, Jake loses it at the thought of there being something worse out there. He thinks, the sun. Oh no, what's that? Is it going to get me? Oh no, I'll be good this time. Oh no, it's going to hurt me. His head slams repeatedly into the metal over and over, each hit louder, harder. The sound rings in his ears, making him crazier. His mind's in agony. Too much fear, too much pain, but he can't stop moving. He wants to scream for death, but is too afraid to die. His skull bashes the sides again and again, sending sharp pain through his whole body. He claws at the box, nails ripping off, blood smearing everywhere. He tries to scream, but it's just garbled, choking noises. The space feels tighter, like it's crushing him. He keeps smashing his head into the cold steel, faster, harder, his skull cracking open. Blood drips down, mixing with the sweat, but Jake can't think. Just fear and pain. His body jerks violently, blood and spit flying as he mindlessly thrashes. Suddenly, the box is ripped open, and Daniel towers over him. Daniel screams, "Shut the fuck up!" Jake's body freezes in sheer terror. Not a sound escapes him. He wouldn't dare let out another peep. Without warning, Daniel pours boiling water over Jake's mangled body. Jake's whole body convulses in agony, but he can't scream, too paralyzed by fear and pain. Daniel slams the box shut and sprints up the stairs, laughing like a little girl. Daniel, now upstairs, calms himself down. He then focuses on finishing the basketball court. Daniel loads the paint supplies into his truck and drives to the nearby basketball court. He spends about 2 hours finishing the painting, carefully lining the court. Afterward, he heads to Duluth, a small city nearby. He enters Menards, a supply store, and picks out the fencing he needs. It's pricey, but Daddy's got the big bands. He also gets poles, backboards, and rims. He had to buy bungee cords to strap them into his truck. With everything loaded up, he returns to the courts and starts setting it up, ensuring the court is fully upgraded and ready for use. This was a full day's work for old Danny. At 10 at night, he finally finished. Satisfied, he looks at it with a smile on his face. He then realizes something. He spelled Proctor. Proctor. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream erupts from him. He gets down on all fours and sprints into his truck and speeds off. He drives in circles at full speed around Proctor, driving through people's lawns, hitting mailboxes, fences, and even a cat. He bites down on the steering wheel as he drives. Eventually, he closes in on his home and quickly steps out onto all fours like an animal. His neighbor, Terrence, yells out, "Is everything all right, Dan?" Daniel slowly turns and says, "Yeah, I just sprained my ankle trying to get into my truck. Some maniac is speeding around Proctor. He's driving through yards and everything. You should get inside. I was working on the basketball courts, and he almost hit me, so I got into my truck and sped off home. I think he was trying to hit me. It was some gray four-door, a Chevy, I think." Terrence replied, "You want some help getting inside? You look pretty hurt. Did he run over your foot?" Daniel says, "No, thanks. I'm all good, Mr. Bugga. I just rolled my ankle running." Terrence says, "All right. Well, thanks. I'll be watching for that guy to go by. I'll get his plate." Daniel gets back up and pretends to have a heavy limp as he says goodbye and quickly enters his home, clearly not thinking straight. He tears the door wide open against the siding on the outside wall. Once he's in the living room, Daniel slumps onto the couch, a very slight hint of fear on his face. His 43rd birthday is only 2 days away, and the thought of aging is uncertain to him. The serum keeps him alive, but he continues to age. He has questions with no answers. He tries to take his mind off of it. Daniel opens the basement door and heads down the stairs, a smile on his face. He approaches the metal box and lifts the lid. Inside, Jake is curled up in a tight ball, his body shaking uncontrollably. His eyes are wide with terror, and he's silent, his face twisted in a silent scream of horror. Daniel lets out a harsh, cruel laugh. He slams the lid shut with a loud bang, the sound echoing in the basement. The laughter fades as he walks away, leaving Jake alone in the darkness. After slamming the lid shut, Daniel walks slowly toward the stairs, pretending to leave. He remains silent, letting the fear build up inside the box. For a few moments, all Jake hears is the oppressive silence, making the darkness feel even heavier. Suddenly, Daniel spins around and begins banging on the metal box with all his strength. The pounding echoes through the basement, each hit louder and more jarring than the last. Jake's muffled screams and desperate squeals make Daniel laugh. The relentless banging continues, with Jake's horror growing with each bang. Daniel stands outside the box, listening to the faint, horrified squeals coming from inside, a smile on his face. Suddenly, as Daniel stands over the metal box, a man's voice calls down from the top of the basement stairs. "Evening, sir. I'm Officer Thompson. I got a call about a truck matching yours, driving through some lawns. I also noticed your front door was wide open with some broken glass on the front porch. I was just concerned, that's all." Daniel thinks, what the fuck is he doing in my home? But instead says, "Evening. I'm sorry about the truck and the glass. I walked in pissed off about something stupid earlier, that's all." The officer looks at Daniel. "I also heard some loud banging noises coming from down here. Can you explain what's going on?" Daniel's mind races. He takes a deep breath and launches into his explanation. "Oh, that's just from an old plumbing issue. The basement has been having some problems, and I had to fix a burst pipe. The banging was me trying to hammer some fittings into place. It's a bit noisy, but it's all good now." The officer says, "Are the pipes on that box?" Daniel goes silent for a moment. All right, I see. Mind if I take a look? Of course. I'll show you the area. As they descend the stairs, Daniel goes to a section of the basement where some pipes and tools are scattered. Here's where I was working. You can see the pipe fittings and the tools I was using. The noise you heard was from me tightening these fittings and some minor adjustments. I'm almost finished with the repairs. The officer inspects the area, looking at the tools and the partially fixed pipes. Looks like a decent job. I can see why it would be noisy. Daniel nods, relieved. Yes, it's been a bit of a mess, but it's all coming together. I just had to get it done quickly before the water damage got worse. All right, just make sure everything is okay. We don't want any more disturbances. Daniel gives a smile. Absolutely, officer. I'll take care of it right away. Thank you for checking in. As Officer Thompson prepares to leave, he freezes when he hears a faint whine coming from the metal box. The officer, sensing something is off, takes a step closer to the box, his eyes scanning the basement. "What's that?" the officer says, while staring at Daniel. Daniel's heart pounds. He quickly steps between the officer and the box. Oh, that must be some old equipment making noises. It's nothing to worry about. The officer's eyes look to the stains of blood and filth on the floor near the corner, and chains lying discarded. "Sir, what's all this?" Daniel's mind races, trying to think of an excuse. I must have missed that. It's from an old project I was working on. I haven't cleaned up yet. I'm really sorry about that. I was making juice. Look, Officer Thompson, I understand this looks bad, but I assure you, it's nothing. Just from making juice. I've been meaning to clean it up, but it got pushed aside. The officer's suspicion grows. He steps closer to the box, the whine growing louder. "Can I take a look inside the box?" Panic sets in for Daniel. No, that's not necessary. It's really just junk." The officer's eyes narrow as he reaches for the box, intent on checking. Daniel's face goes pale. Daniel shoves the officer back and tries to close the distance to the box. "I said it's nothing. Just an old storage box," but the officer pushes back, demanding, "Let me see what's inside." The officer quickly gets a hand on the box. He quickly opens it slightly. Just then, he sees Jake. The mangled, bloodied body of Jake becomes partially visible. In this moment, Jake sees his first person other than his father. He lets out a horrified shriek. The officer's face goes pale as he takes in the horror before him. "Jesus Christ!" The officer yells, stumbling back. Oh my God! Daniel realizes there's no way out, and the officer grabs his radio. The officer's attempt to call for backup is cut short as Daniel slams the officer's hand against the wall, forcing him to drop the radio. He tackles him to the ground. The officer struggles, trying to defend himself, but Daniel's strength and rage overwhelm him. Daniel's face is pissed as he grabs the officer by the collar, pulling him up and slamming his head into the concrete over and over. "You shouldn't have come here," Daniel says, his voice low and menacing. He grabs a nearby metal pipe and, with a swift, brutal swing, hits the officer across the face. The officer's knocked out cold. He swings the pipe again and again, each strike more vicious than the last. Daniel shatters the officer's skull. He stands over him, panting heavily, his face splattered with a small amount of blood. The room is now quiet. He runs upstairs and locks the basement door. For 2 minutes, Daniel thinks of what he should do. He gets an idea. Daniel quickly strips off his bloodied clothes and changes into the officer's uniform. He takes the officer's keys, radio, and any other needed items. The uniform is slightly small, but he makes do, knowing he must look like an officer when he gets in that police car just in case the neighbors are watching. He quickly goes upstairs and also grabs a fresh shirt and pants he will need soon, along with some gloves for the steering wheel. He steps outside and locks his front door while trying to cover his face. He heads to the officer's car parked out front. Luckily for Daniel, it's dark outside with the police car's lights still on. He quickly starts the engine and drives away from his home. Daniel parks the car a mile down after finally figuring out how to turn the lights off. The then strips off the officer's clothing and changes into his clothes he brought in the woods. He jogs back while carrying the officer's clothes and badge. Once he gets close to home, he takes the back alley. Instead of using the front, he bursts through the tall bushes in his backyard and unlocks the glass back doors. Now inside, he sits upstairs in his room. He grabs a large wooden box and puts the uniform and badge inside. He then goes to take the box into the basement. He opens the basement door to still hear Jake's muffled screams. He quickly enters, locking the door behind him. He scoops up everything that could be evidence into the box and sits it in the corner. He thinks the basement should be safe. They have no reason to know he was here, but doubt quickly creeps in. What if they look back at the officer's GPS records? Anxiety and intelligence push Daniel to change his mind. He knows he can't leave any trace. Only a matter of time until they come looking. Daniel rolls up his sleeves and begins working. First, he wraps the officer's body in an old tarp he kept in the corner, tying it tight with rope to contain any leaks. Then he turns his attention to the blood and evidence. Daniel grabs a mop and cleaning supplies, scrubbing the blood-splattered concrete as hard as he can. He uses bleach, scrubbing again and again until every trace of the officer's blood is wiped away. He scrubs the walls, floor, and even the edges of furniture, looking for any drops he may have missed. The stench of bleach fills the basement, burning his nose, but he doesn't care. He needs everything spotless. Once the visible evidence is erased, Daniel takes the officer's radio, uniform, and personal items from the box. He carefully wraps them in plastic and stows them with the body. His heart pounds with every step. Every detail matters. He can't leave anything that could be traced back to him. Finally, the basement looks as though nothing had happened. The only sign left is the covered corpse in the corner. Daniel realizes he needs to be careful, so he starts by moving his truck around back. He pulls it through the alley, carefully positioning it so the bed is facing the thick bushes that he uses like a privacy fence. The truck keeps running as he steps out. Heading back inside, Daniel grabs the 2 shovels from the garage, setting them next to the truck. He then makes his way down to the basement. The officer's body is heavy, but Daniel's focus is perfect. He drags the body through the basement and upstairs, pausing only to listen for any sounds outside. Once at the back door, he opens it and hauls the body out into the backyard. The thick bushes conceal his actions as he forces the officer's body through them and into the truck bed. He quickly throws a tarp over it, making sure it's securely hidden, and then tosses the shovels in beside it. Now, with everything in place, Daniel takes one last look around before climbing into the driver's seat. He pulls away slowly, Daniel knew he had to get rid of the body fast. He drove the truck with the officer's body in it to a remote spot in the woods. Parking in a secluded area, he checked to make sure no one was around. He took the body out of the truck and dragged it to a spot where he had already picked out. He dug a deep hole in the ground. Once the hole was ready, he threw the body into it. After covering the body with dirt and smoothing out the area, Daniel made sure it looked natural by scattering some leaves and debris on top. He then cleaned the shovels and loaded them back into the truck. Finally, he drove back. As he drove back, he thought about the GPS tracking again. Thoughts about the GPS tracking and forensic experts. He couldn't shake the worry that even a single hair left in the police car could lead to his incrimination. He decided to check if the police car was still at the spot where he'd left it. With the keys still in his pocket, he drove back to where he had parked the car. As he approached the location, he scanned the area for any sign of the vehicle. Seeing that the police car was still there, Daniel parked at a distance on a path into the woods to hide his truck and approached cautiously. He made sure no one was around, then quickly unlocked the car. Inside, he carefully searched for any potential evidence, hairs, fingerprints, or anything else that might link him to the scene. The more he thought about it, the more anxious he became. He couldn't shake the worry that even a trace left in the car could lead to him. Determined to cover his tracks, he decided to drive the car into Lake Superior. He knew it was drastic, but forensic experts were incredibly thorough and he couldn't afford any mistakes. Daniel drove far, all the way down to the Lester River, far past Duluth. There is a lookout point off the highway, one with no guardrail, one where if he swerved while going fast enough, he would end up plunging the car into the lake. He drove and drove. Once near the spot, he stopped behind a place called the Lakeside Professional Building. He quickly tore off the license plate and cameras and threw them in the dumpster. He got back on the road and accelerated, speeding to over 130 miles per hour. He swerved slightly and landed deep into the lake. While jumping out, midair, Daniel lied on the ground in extreme pain. The agony from this crash was truly insane, but it was necessary. Unfortunately, a man on the small beach saw this. The stranger yelled, "Holy shit." Daniel quickly covered his face and replied, "Oh my God, he hit me. He swerved off the road and hit me." The stranger called an ambulance. Fire department and police were all coming. But before they arrived, Daniel healed from the serum and sprinted across the highway into town. He quickly grabbed the photographs of Jake and other incriminating evidence, stuffing them into his pants. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts, and went downstairs to face the situation. With a firm knock on the front door, he opened it to find an officer holding up a search warrant. "Good morning, sir. We have a search warrant for your property," the officer said. Daniel acted confused. "A search warrant? What the fuck? For what?" The officer replied, "We're investigating the disappearance of a local police officer. We have reason to believe there might be evidence related to his disappearance at this address. Please cooperate with us." Daniel nodded. "Oh yeah. Officer Thompson, right? He stopped here when he saw me walking back from the basketball courts last night." "Of course, officers. "Come on in," Daniel quietly says the hard R under his breath as the officer walks by. The officers and K9 unit entered the house. The dog began sniffing around the main floor, moving through rooms and hallways with precision. Meanwhile, officers systematically searched each room, opening closets, checking under beds, and inspecting every nook and cranny. One officer, noticing the broken glass on the front door, turned to Daniel. "How did the glass get broken here?" Daniel quickly said, "Oh, that. I was bringing in some drywall and accidentally broke it while trying to get it through the door. I haven't had a chance to fix it yet." The officers seemed to accept the explanation, but made a note of it. As the search continued, Daniel followed the officers around, offering them drinks and trying to act as helpful as he could. The officers moved from room to room, checking under furniture and searching through every little thing. Eventually, they walked up to the basement door. The officer turns the knob, but it does not open. He asks Daniel for the key. He slowly gives the officer the key to the basement. The officer unlocks the basement door. The sound of the metal door slowly falling open against the old wooden walls echoes in the basement. They began to focus on the newly installed drywall. One officer noted, "This drywall looks recent. Has there been any recent renovation down here?" Daniel responds by saying, "Yes, I was just updating the basement. It's been a bit of a project." The old walls were awful. Used to have a dog, and he tore those all up. They ignored Daniel and moved through the basement, examining every detail and even questioning Daniel about the recent changes. After a thorough inspection of the entire home, including the basement where Jake lay, gasping for air, in the sealed box bedrooms and living areas, the officers gathered in the living room to speak with Daniel. "Mr. Smith, we've completed our search," the lead officer said. "We didn't find anything incriminating in the areas we searched, but we'll continue our investigation. If you have any further information about the missing officer, please contact us immediately," Daniel says. "Of course, officers. I'll be sure to let you know if I hear anything." As the officers left, Daniel closed the door and slumped against it. He sits there for a moment. Daniel then locks his door and goes upstairs. He screams, "Holy shit, I can't believe that worked." Dumbass dog, he thinks to himself. He can't afford any mistakes. With the officers gone, he heads out to the woods. Daniel starts by getting into his truck. He drives to the spot where he buried the body. Upon reaching near the grave, he gets out of the truck before walking onto the dirt path. He doesn't want to leave. Tire tracks. He retrieves a can of gas from the back. Walking quickly down the path, Daniel gets to the spot and begins to dig up the body. Once the body is exposed, Daniel opens the canister and pours gasoline over it, making sure every inch is soaked. The smell of gasoline is overpowering. After drenching the body, Daniel strikes a match and drops it onto the gasoline-soaked remains. The flames catch quickly. Daniel watches from a distance, ensuring the fire does its job. It's broad daylight, but Daniel would rather them find the body and confirm him dead soon rather than find him dead later on with Daniel's fingerprints on him. At least, that was his thought process. Once the flames have died down and the body is nothing but a pile of ashes, Daniel begins covering the area with the dirt he had removed earlier, disguising any signs of disturbance. With the grave recovered and the evidence incinerated, Daniel returns to his truck. Daniel knows they will find the body, but he hoped that now all traces of himself are gone off the body. He drives home This time he parks his truck out front. He walks inside with a confident strut. Daniel grabs popcorn and sits down on his nice blue couch. He turns on his huge screen and watches a funny movie. I can't see anything. I'm just stuck in this dark, tiny space. It's cold. I feel like I'm suffocating. And I can't move. The box is so small. I can barely breathe. I don't know why I'm in here. I don't know what I did wrong. I can't tell if my eyes are closed. I can't tell if my eyes are closed. I keep blinking, and it's not working. I want the light to come back. It's warm. It hurts here. Dad said to stay quiet. If I make any noise, he's going to come back. I don't want him to come back. I don't want to be in this box. It's so dark, and I feel like I'm being crushed. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why he was so angry. I was just trying to stay out of the way. I didn't want to be noticed. I thought if I stayed still and small, everything would be okay. But then, I was put in this box. He hurt me a lot. The kicking, the smell, it's awful. It's like something rotting. It's making me feel sick. I think it's me again. I think Dad put something in here with me. It's a weird, powdery stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's making me burn. It won't go away. He opened it again after and put gooey stuff all over the box. I tried to eat it, but I couldn't. It hurt. I don't know what that was. I don't understand. It wasn't him. It wasn't Dad. It didn't sound like him, didn't move like him. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Dad. I hate this. I hate this so much. My chest hurts. My head hurts. I'm so scared. I want it to stop. I want it all to stop. I can't breathe right. My heart's pounding so hard, I think it's going to explode. What was that thing from before? Why was it here? Why did it yell when it opened the box? Is it going to hurt me? It's not Dad. What is it? I don't know. I don't know. I'm too scared to even move. I'm trying not to shake, but I can't stop. My hands, my legs, everything's shaking. I'm cold, but I'm sweating. I feel like I'm going to throw up, but there's nothing in my stomach. I can't make noise. I can't make noise, or Dad's going to get mad. He said no noise, no moving. If I do, I don't want to think about it. He'll make it worse. He always does. So I'm staying still. But it's so hard. I don't know what's happening outside. I don't know what's out there, but it's not Dad. What else could there be? I didn't know there were other things besides Dad. I didn't know. It's always just been him. But now, there's something else. Something new. Something I don't know. I don't like it. What if it's bad? What if it hurts me? It could hurt me. I want to ask Dad. I want to know what that thing was, but I can't ask. He said I can't talk unless he talks to me first. And he hasn't talked to me yet, so I can't ask. But what if it comes back? What if it's still out there? What if it finds me? I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I'm stuck, and I'm scared, and I can't even breathe right. Why is this happening? Why is there something else here? There shouldn't be anything else. It's just supposed to be me and Dad. That's how it's always been. I kept hearing noises, weird noises. I don't know what they are. They're like deep and sniffs and things I don't understand. I heard these noises and felt like I couldn't breathe right. It's all scary. My heart was beating so fast. I tried to keep still like Dad told me, but I was so scared. I heard these footsteps, a lot of them. They were loud, and they felt like they were everywhere, like Dad had more feet than normal. I heard some words that I didn't understand. They were loud, and it felt like It was looking right at me. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I had to stay quiet, like Daddy said. I don't want to make noise, but I keep shaking. It's so cold, and I'm so scared. At 10 p.m., Daniel sits alone in his dimly lit living room. The silence around him feels heavier tonight, more oppressive. His mind races and he can't stop thinking about the reality of turning 43. He stares at his reflection in the darkened window, haunted by the thought of aging and what it will do to him. He's terrified that the aging process will clash horribly with the serum's effects. The serum keeps him from dying, but he worries it won't prevent aging. What does that look like in another 80 years? He tries not to think about it. Instead, he goes for a ride on his motorcycle. Swinging a leg over the bike, he turned the key. Daniel gets home from his ride, feeling the stress of the day on him. He parks the bike, locks the door behind him, and heads straight upstairs without bothering to turn on the lights. Exhausted, he quickly undresses and collapses onto his bed, pulling the blanket over himself. Within moments, he falls into a deep slumber. September 23rd, 7 in the morning. Daniel is jolted awake by a loud banging on his door. He jogs downstairs in only his underwear, opening the door to find 2 officers standing outside. One of them is holding a clipboard, while the other has a police dog and is dressed in full coverage with latex gloves. The officer holding the clipboard says, "We need to conduct another search of your house." Daniel, still half asleep, responds, "What? You just checked my whole damn house yesterday." The officer replies firmly, "Yes, but we have new suspicions regarding the basement area. We need you to step aside while we perform the search, or we will have to detain you." Daniel says, "You've got to be fucking kidding me. I've already told you everything." These new suspicions are serious. Either you step aside now, or we will have to take further action. Daniel hesitates. He reluctantly steps aside, watching as the officers and their dog make their way into his home. The officer with the clipboard says, "We need you to unlock the basement door so we can investigate." "Why are you checking the basement again?" "You already searched it yesterday." The officer responds, "We've received new information suggesting that something might have been missed. Please allow this to go smoothly. We're just doing our job," he says. The officers were very suspicious of the new walls the day before. They ignored certain things because of the contract. But the finding of brand new drywall at such a specific time raised red flags. Daniel, clearly a bit worried, goes to unlock the basement door. The 2 officers and the dog walk into the basement. Another officer waits with Daniel upstairs. They start their search, examining every corner. The dog sniffs around the room, occasionally stopping to sniff in certain areas. The officers follow, carefully checking for any signs of disturbance or hidden spots in the walls. After a while, the dog suddenly begins to bark at a section of the wall. The officers look over to the area. One of the officers says, "There's definitely something unusual here." They begin to pry at the wall. The sound of scraping and the creaking of the wall creates a tense atmosphere. The officers work meticulously, each tug and shift increasing the anticipation. As the wall is gradually removed, the hidden area behind it is revealed. The officers' eyes widen as they uncover the box. Finally, the last part of the wall is pulled away, and the box is fully uncovered. They look at the box for a moment. They think, I hope Officer Thompson isn't in there. The officers grab the top of the box and then lift the lid. Jake, curled up inside and overwhelmed with fear, lets out a shriek. The shriek echoes off the basement walls, a raw, instinctual noise. The officers, shocked and horrified, freeze for a moment. One of them screams, "What? What the hell is that?" Meanwhile, upstairs, seeing the officer who had been watching him, Daniel grabs a kitchen knife from the counter and attacks him. The officer is not caught off guard. He fires a shot at Daniel, the bullet going straight through Daniel's chest. Daniel, fueled by desperation, manages to stab the officer directly in the throat. The officer collapses, gasping for breath, as he falls to the floor. The other officer from downstairs begins to go after Daniel, as the other attends to Jake. As he runs up the stairs, he sees going to close the basement door and fires a shot at him. The bullet hits Daniel in the shoulder, causing him to stagger but not fall. Despite the pain, Daniel quickly kicks the basement door shut and locks it, trapping the two officers downstairs with Jake. With his heart racing and no time to waste, he bursts into his office. Daniel grabs his book, backpack, serum, and a small, simple pistol from his wall, knowing there's no hiding the truth anymore. He runs outside, jumps onto his motorcycle, and speeds away. As he's driving away, he hears shots fired from inside the house. He's sure those are at the basement doors, locks. The next ones will be at him. Daniel speeds around the corners of Proctor, adrenaline pumping. As he rides, a genius plan already starts to form in his mind. He finds an old abandoned house on the outskirts of town and parks his bike inside. The house is dusty and empty, but it's a good place to wait. Still in his underwear and carrying his backpack, he sets down his backpack and takes out his book and the serum, placing them on a dusty table. Despite feeling some pain, he's already healing from the earlier injuries. As the night drags on, the fear of being discovered grows, making the silence even more oppressive. Daniel knows he has to stay hidden and wait for the right moment to act. At 7 on the dot, he heads out Daniel, back on his bike, speeds to Duluth. He then headed toward the bridge that connects Duluth to Wisconsin. The night is dark and the air is cold as he drives with purpose. Halfway across the bridge, right before some blue arches, he accelerates, aiming directly at the edge of the bridge. He swerves and crashes through the side. The bike stays on top of the bridge, and Daniel plunges into the St. Louis River below. The cold water hits him as he dives in. He quickly recovers and begins swimming, fighting against the current. As he moves towards the far shore, he purposefully throws out his wallet, hoping it is found. Despite the freezing water and the struggle, he pushes himself to get out of the river. Finally, he reaches the shore, pulling himself out of the water. Wet and exhausted, Daniel takes a moment to catch his breath. It was truly one of the hardest things he had ever done. The constant pain of his body freezing along with the impact of the crash was awful, regardless of the serum. It was a half-mile swim, a horrific task. Daniel stayed deep underwater the entire time. It took what felt like forever. His lungs failed him, but the serum kept him awake. His serum worked differently than Jake's. Daniel's was not limited. The serum somehow provided his body oxygen. The downside is, Daniel felt the full pain as if there was none. Daniel made sure to quickly crawl into some bushes, a final push to then catch his breath. Daniel looks back at the river. Search and rescue are already looking for him. Daniel is far away from the boats. Now, His main worries are getting far away from here, but being in his underwear does not help. He gets further inland in fear of them shining a light on him. For a while, he's too scared to move, frozen by the fear of the lights sweeping over him. The minutes drag on as he remains laid down in the rocks on shore, the search teams still focused on the river. Slowly, he builds the courage to make a move. Every step is cautious, his breaths short and quick as he pushes through the underbrush, moving further from the water's edge. It's so dark, too dark. Eventually, Daniel finds himself in an urban area, mid-rise buildings. The streets are mostly empty. He goes into a narrow alley between two buildings, trying to gather his thoughts. It becomes midnight. The day turns over to September 24th. As he slips through the shadows, a lone man rounds the corner. The man spots him, surprised, as he looks Daniel up and down. "Oh shit, what's going on?" the man asks. Daniel, still in his underwear and shivering, walks up to the man. "All your clothing." Now the man hesitates, and before he can react, Daniel beats the ever-living shit out of him. He takes off his jacket, shirt, and pants. The shoes don't fit Daniel well, but he doesn't care. He just needs to get out of here. He quickly changes into the man's clothes, which are too tight, but at least now he's dressed. He jogs off away from the river. He can't be seen by anyone around here that knows him. They probably know he killed those officers now, and they might know of the horrors he has done. Daniel sees a man alone on a motorcycle at a stoplight with the keys in the ignition. The man is distracted by his phone. Daniel sprints up to the man on the bike. The man looks over, but is too late. He's bull-charged off of his bike. Daniel gets on top of the man and ground and pounds him, then snatching the phone from the man's hand. The man, in shock, watches helplessly as Daniel climbs onto the motorcycle. Daniel speeds off down the street. He throws the phone out into the street, watching it tumble and land behind him. With the motorcycle's speed helping him get away, Daniel sped off. "Hell yeah!" he screams. Deep in his heart, he knows that Jake is suffering now more than ever. He can't handle everything he's seeing. He's sure of it. Daniel laughs loud while driving off. Daniel gets on the highway and just keeps driving and driving.